All right, thank you so much. Here, the program still this morning on ITV on independent television. And the very first topic we are taking this morning is the Mmesoma versus Jump Saga. Now, it was last week, it was even this week, about Wednesday or so, that we did the very first segment of, that issue, where the whole country and even some international concern were almost of the opinion that that girl probably did not fake the JAMB result, that she did not forge the JAMB result. That some insinuations built around the fact that maybe some data issue came up, that some issues that have to do with printing results online and all that came up. And that was why and how she printed the 362 result that she got. And it was a total number of about 113 that became controversial because JAMB told Mmesoma Ejikeme that she scored 149. But Mmesoma said no, that she actually scored 362. Now, remember there was also one Camille Sochiku that had 360. So why that girl was being celebrated, it was Mmesoma that had to go forward to meet authorities involved that, hey, instead of you celebrating 360, she has a higher score, which was 362. And that was how the whole thing came up. And JAMB, in their wisdom, had to do a deeper dive, to actually do some investigation to actually authenticate that result. And what JAMB found out was to see that Mmesoma did not score 362, that her actual score was 249. And Mmesoma said, no, that was the result that you people gave to me. That was the result I printed. And of course, she went on to say that it wasn't her fault. Then sympathy, somehow emotional, concerns and all that started coming. Well, we even understand that some persons volunteer that Mmesoma should be taken outside the country. And why JAMB statutorily had to do what they needed to do. JAMB had to bar Mmesoma for the next 3 years. So as it stands now, Mmesoma stands not to write. She stands not to apply for the JAMB examination until 2026 or 2027 or whatever, because she's been barred for 3 years. Now, this morning, to look at these issues furthermore, we are so privileged to have Mr. Peter Okungbawa. He is one of the coordinators of Test House Tutorials, also known as Gorilla Brains, and of course, one of the coordinators of Cavalry Crown Academy. Now, these people, they mentor students into being candidates. From candidates now, they write and attempt tertiary institutions. And of course, the JAMB examination is also an examination that they prepare candidates for. Now, Mr. Peter, you're welcome. I'm sure you are as disappointed as I am, looking at this Mmesoma saga. What do you make out of it?
I'm not disappointed at all. The times without number, I've spent my resources preaching on man around town against the evil of malpractice and what it could do to society. And people like us were seen as people who were going too far. Mmesoma, for me, became the victim of something that is quite popular. At the level of WAEC exams, for example, how are we sure that for the past 20 years, the results that have been turned out are organic? They are results that these students can't defend. Because what you see today in society, which is a major fallout of our educational system, expresses itself in hooliganism, in cultism, in prostitution, and all social vices. All are fallout of a failed educational system. So, while the case of Mmesoma has announced a system or a practice, a sharp practice that has been ongoing, it's now also symptomatic of one idea. Our young people that we supposedly are educating to take over the leadership space and the economic space of the future don't have the requisite education to stand in that stead in the future. For me, I said I wasn't disappointed because I'm in the education business. I've been in it for nearly 20 years. I'm sort of familiar with things like this, even if there are no practical instances for us to hold on to. There have been rumors of this going on and on. JAMB has delisted some CBT centers for practices of this sort. There are some that we know of. We can't quote it, but it's out there in the public domain that JAMB delisted them for reasons like this. Now, in the case of Mmesoma, she basically just used her little level of courage draw to do a design of her results, and she wasn't smart enough to know that if this becomes public, it will be investigated. There are lots of results that are being forged like this that will not be investigated or never investigated because they didn't come out publicly to want to get accolades for their conquest, as it were. A lot of disappointments here, I felt, because she's too little. When I look at the videos of how she defended that result,
yeah, the effrontery, yeah,
you know, the courage, I felt like, Jam, you guys need to actually explain yourself, because we are not unaware that there are cases where people check their Jam result this moment and log in with the same login detail later, and there's a different result there. We are not unaware of that. Things like that have happened over the years, which Jam has not been able to explain to Nigerians till tomorrow, of how I logged into your portal and checked my result. Maybe perhaps I scored 250. And checked in again after a week is 100 and something. How do you explain that? The evidence, print out evidence. It is on the basis of that glitch that is historical with Jam that Mmesoma rode on to do a corridor design, knowing that she could actually stand to defend this whole thing when push comes to shove. The public would, the sympathy of the public would come to her side, because we are aware that Jam has issues like this before. She got to the extent that, imagine that somebody had already offered her a scholarship abroad to go school, because supposedly she's a smart child, and Jam is putting whatever glitch they had on her to defend or justify this whole disturbance. Well, not until I saw a video where she actually confessed to this herself, I was a bit worried that injustice might be done to this girl with the 3-year ban that they came into her. But from our own personal confession, I want to also plead with the authority that the case of Mmesoma is good enough for Jam to fortify their ranks. Of all the existing examination bodies in Nigeria, WAEC, NECO, NAPTEB, Jam is the most fortified when it comes to the fight against examination malpractice. We've argued in the past, why can't WAEC simply ask schools that they're also given the rights to conduct exams to put CCTV cameras in their hall? We suggested to commissioners passed in Edo here to get the worship center vis-a-vis the Catholic Church and the mosque, and credible Nigerians who Edo State people can talk about on a platform, on a social platform, that XYZ person doesn't have the credibility to be a volunteer inspector on behalf of the Ministry of Education, so that we can sanitize this educational space of ours. There is no child, so I repeat, that God has not deposited something to bring to the fore in life. But parents destroy this gift, or destroy the mandate God placed on these children by acceding to those shortcuts that are not short in the long run. The process of learning is a process that is going to take a toll on you. The toll is going to take a toll on you. The process is going to train you to become better. What's the faith? What's the trust that economically we can do better in the future when our young ones today are a product of examination malpractice?
Okay, now let's look at, because it's obvious now that Mmesoma did not act alone in this whole scenario. I mean, she wrote the exam in a CBT center. Now, why the nation, most especially in the stakeholders in education in the nation now, worried about miracle centers for WAEC and the GC and all that? Now, the CBT examination, you know, as put together now by Jam, is recent now. Now, I think we're beginning to have miracle centers in CBT examinations too.
Yeah, and then when you say parents are worried, people are worried about these miracle centers, they're not worried about it, Mr. Evans. They've endorsed it years past. Since the advent of private school system and the whole sham in the public school system, all parents are interested in paper qualification. I have it on good authority as a school manager that parents would rather save money to procure examination malpractice for their children than to pay school doing the right thing for the children. And you don't blame them. It's society. In local parlance, they say fence for goats climbed. Emphasis to do on employment is on the grade you made in school, not your certificate, not the proficiency of the education that you've got. There are some of us that cannot pass interview, but we are geniuses when it comes to management. We are geniuses when it comes to handling issues. But the standard for which we are going to be judged, that judge whether we are good for this job or not, is what the paper says. It was a president in this country, former president, in the person of Olusegun Obasanjo, who did say that any person below a 2-1 should not be employed in the civil service. And he did make some also correct statement that Nigerians decried him for, when he did say, for example, hiring a Nigerian trained engineer is at your own risk, and it's true.
hiring Nigerian trained doctors is something else. It's true, because when you go to the learning centers where these doctors and engineers are produced, you ask yourself, how are these people going to even stand in the face of their international counterpart to say they are engineers, or to say they are doctors, or to say they are pharmacists, when basically all that brought them to where they are is what the results say. So in our university system, all the results you see there, if they go back into them and investigate them, you'll be amazed that some people should be recalled back to school, or should be, their certificate should be withdrawn from them. Because this malpractice thing is so bad that in the primary school leaving certificate exam, as basic as those exams, parents are in the examination centers waiting to procure malpractice for their children. And I ask myself, what was the point in training them from preschool to basic school exams? We're looking at a total of almost 11 years. What was the point in putting your resources into paying their tuition, getting home teachers for them, and then you have to aid and abet? Is it that this child cannot stand an exam that he or she has been prepared for years? Is that what we're saying? Is that government is to blame for all of this?
Okay, now let's talk about the tertiary institutions now. Now, Mmesoma was going to get admission.
Of course, she would have gotten admission.
I mean, with 362. Most schools would have even allowed
What's
her
another
to
question
come.
If she was alone in this?
Now, obviously, she wasn't.
Well, from our confection, it's quite easy for any person who has a knowledge of correct draw to enter the system and imitate the results, as it were. So it's possible on account of that she's acted strictly on her own with the knowledge she's got.
Where did she get that experience from?
Oh, Mr. Evans, correct draw experience. If you're good at ICT, you can open a correct draw page and do a design that looks like the original.
Now, what I'm trying to say is that from what Mmesoma did, it looks as if that thing has not just started today. It's been going on.
There's
so
also
that leads us to the next question now. For tertiary institutions now that accept these results and give admission, if not for the prize that was at stake, that Mmesoma had to say, hey, don't celebrate 360. I have a higher score, 362. Mmesoma was going to procure an admission with that score. So the question I'm trying to say now, the tertiary institutions, what do they vet? What do they check?
I do not think that Mmesoma was quite smart enough to have known that that issue anyhow was going to get her into trouble. And I wonder the kind of school that she was going to apply to with such a fake result. Because ordinarily, the process of admission in Nigeria here today is quite simple with the unified tertiary matriculation exam scheme that took effect from JAM, as it were, where they unified the entire system. Now, as it stands today, the admissions into the university system is not solely determined by the university system. It's co-determined between them and JAM. In the first instance, JAM offers you provisional admission on their portal before the university you apply for even deem you worthy to be admitted in the event that you have passed their screening tests, as it were. Now, JAM will collect these results from their own server, and on the basis of the numbers of those that have applied to XYZ department, to XYZ school, to XYZ faculty, JAM pushes to those schools from their own server. So anyhow, if, for example, she applied to University of Benin would have found out that the result was not real. Or probably that for the fact that she wanted the public accolades and the money that was going with it, she probably would have succeeded at the point of that. And if she was not so popular, the university probably would have cleared out with our original score of 246, should it be above the cutoff for the department or the course she intended. One way or another, she was trying to be smart about it. I think the interest was the money, as it were. I do not think for a girl who was smart enough to score 246 in JAM today, wouldn't even know or wouldn't have the idea that going forward, this thing might be detected. I think the greed overshadowed her sense of thinking and reasoning. But all of this, my joy is that Nigerians have begun to ask also very critical questions. If JAM could uncover this girl's deeds and went as far as proving by fact that this girl has gone, I think they should also get forensics experts to prove where 36 billion house snake also swallowed. No, it's all, these questions will now arise. I think JAM owe the public an explanation of how snakes swallowed such a huge amount of money in their coffers. Was that money physical? Was it physical? If it was physical cash, what was physical cash to the tune of that amount doing in JAM office? If it was online, if it was an online transaction, how did the snake get into the metaphysical world and began to swallow what was an e-banking system today? These are questions that are now begging for answers.
Okay, now, let's talk about the age factor now of Mmesoma. I find it difficult to believe
She's 19 years
that
old.
she's 19. I mean, before now, yeah, I actually believe that the girl is 19, or that she was 19 rather. So from the look of things now, I don't know. But let's look at the age factor. A 19-year-old girl that she claimed to be, you know, going into that kind of criminal tendency, Mr. Kumbawa.
So the younger youths of today, they call them the Gen Z generation. They are capable of anything. They are smart, way smarter than you and I. What we can do is to direct their energies aright. And if we fail to direct their energies aright, it will go into things that you will least imagine. Nigerians will sit in the comfort of their home and defraud people abroad, and you are surprised that Mmesoma came up with this. No, it shouldn't surprise you, sir. What should be your border is that what is your generation, my generation, doing to put these young people in proper perspective? And her age, as claimed, also raised other issues. I am an educator. I want to imagine that at 19, she shouldn't be in secondary school if she's as smart as she claims. At 19, she should be in 200 or 300 level in the university. Because if she's as smart as she claimed, she could have left secondary school at 15, 16. We have cases of that where young people are that young are getting admission into the university. So her age, as claimed, also raised issues to the extent that I want to see a birth certificate that says Mmesoma is 19. And I also have another problem with her presenting a birth certificate because maybe a product of correct draw. I want an authentication from a DNA sampling that is actually 19. These issues are now telling us something. We're in an age and time where we need to be very critical, and we need to be very, our eyes need to be very open on our kids as they are growing. Children these days, I think the major talent they have is outsmarting their parents to start with before they start outsmarting the public. Many parents have been pushed aside in the process of grooming their children. A number of parents are not consciously parenting. They think that they are parenting, but they are not. They'll be amazed. Some of the things we know about this younger generation, parents will be amazed. Because as somebody who does the pre-university tutoring system, we've been able to interface with these young people. A young girl told me in the time past that she's into fraud, what they call Yahoo. But her parents don't know that when she opens her system, her father cannot even pry into it, even when he's looking at him in glare, because the father does not have that knowledge, as it were. His generation didn't have that knowledge. These young people are learning things today on social media space. They are learning things today in secluded environment they call HK today, that I am not surprised that Mmesoma, I expected Mmesoma to so perfected this thing, to so perfect this whole thing, that result should be on Jam server. Yes. The young people of today can hack that server and put the result there. I expected that from the Gen Z generation.
Let's be careful with that now so that we don't begin to...
yes, what is happening?
But I think Jam has gone beyond that now. I mean, from the way Jam
If Jam has gone beyond that, there will be a test of it in the future that is to come.
Of course.
The only reason why Jam is able to prove this is because Mmesoma did not have the technical know-how to put that result in their server. Are we saying it's impossible to put that result in the server? Go and talk to the hackers and those who are very proficient at these things. You'll be amazed.
Even with the barcode?
Malpractice, sir. Yes, sir. Malpractice takes 3 forms and 3 dimensions. There is a pre-malpractice, there is a post-malpractice, and there is a malpractice itself. What happens in Nigeria when on exams like WAEC, a day to exam or hours to exam, the questions is already on social media? That's pre-malpractice. Then the one that happened in the hall is the malpractice. And the post-malpractice is the kind that people like Mmesoma can do, get into the system and manipulate it.
Okay, now let's look at what somehow some persons may want to say the religious aspect of it now, because Mmesoma did not attend any of these roadside schools and all that. She attended one of these schools owned by one of these churches.
Missionaries.
I don't want to mention names now. Even the Camille Sichuku now, the other lady that's called the 360, also attend one of these big-time churches and all that. Now, these big-time churches, you know, these big-time denominational sets that have schools, they believe with most parents is that, wow, I have to put my child in those people's schools. What do they actually teach these children?
Well, for me, displaying results of academic conquest of your children in school system is a publicity stunt, and it's a good one. What is more, you cannot change the fact that these schools factor in these children's academic growth. There is also a school that is trending very much on social media now with a very superfluous results of JAM 300 and above and all of that, as though scoring 200 and 200 and something now becomes something that to say that you are not doing well. Schools typically will celebrate their best so that the public can be symptomatic to that. I always tell parents, when it comes to learning, when it comes to teaching, most of these schools you are talking about are on a proper footing than even government-owned schools. The government-owned schools are not standards, even for private schools. The categorization of schools into A, B, and C, the list will be C in terms of the private school categorization of school.
Not
the government-owned schools are not even up to that category C. So the problem is that...
But that may be your own opinion now.
How you now a judge? How is the government now a judge as to what these schools are doing? The last time I checked, these schools have funding. And because they have funding, they could do a lot within their system. Private school owners also have, some of them have good ideas. And because of that, they're able to produce some of these staggering results. The reason Mmesoma'S case has become like this is because where you have light, you have darkness. Where you have a valley of darkness, a speck of light can cast a shadow on that valley of darkness. So it's that young people today are smart enough to get this result. It's why Mmesoma would even claim that she got such results. 10 years ago, before the advent of CBT, where JAM exams were written on a Saturday nationwide, I'm not sure the number of people scored 300 above were even up to 1 or 2 in the country, you know. Yeah. But with the unified tertiary examination thing, the problem they now have is that most of the questions that they are given to write are past questions. So Mmesoma didn't even need to cheat if she knew exactly what to do. Yeah. So most of these superfluous examination scores are not actually telling us that this generation is better than the generation past. Because look at it. My generation is still academically better than them. Your generation is still academically better than mine. The generation before you is still academically better than yours. So it's just a past question thing. For me, instead of the schools trying to put it out there to take the shine, the question should be is that when that child gets into the university, what is that child doing to represent the image of that school that they went through all the while? And then again, this child that you have raised, what is this child's character when it comes to issues that should inform this child's level of education? I tell people, the argument is that for you to say you are educated or you are literate and the other person is illiterate, it's simply character reformation. If that is not there, forget it. In that context, we'll now have educated illiterates, and we'll have a lot of them in leadership space today.
All right, so the program is still this morning on ITV, and we took off this morning on our discussion segment to look at the Mmesoma versus JAMB saga. I told you that only a few days ago, the nation was almost sympathetic and emotional towards Mmesoma, that Mmesoma may not have forced that result, but Mmesoma has come up now to make conventional statements. It's in the media space now, it's in the social media that she actually forced the results, and the whole story has changed. And Anambra State government now was also going to support Mmesoma, that she didn't, force that result. But from the look of things now, the government is taking a turnaround and, asking authorities and, people involved now to invite Mmesoma for counseling. JAMB in their own, JAMB statutorily had to do the needful and they barred her from
so they couldn't have endorsed it by keeping quiet
for the next 3 years. But what people are saying is that that's, a consequence that she got now is probably not even enough.
3 years, sir.
3 years.
3 years?
I mean, for somebody that took the whole nation almost...
I want to even ask a question as a follow-up to this, the punishment that has been spelled out on them, that been meted out on her.
Yeah.
What is what are the laws governing examination malpractice? If there are laws on examination malpractice, it should be referred to this time around.
Because I remember when we were in school, I think then they chorused it into our ears before you go into the whole that is 21 years in jail and all that. I remember then, in our GC, in our JAM and all that, I remember then.
If you like, sentence Mmesoma to 100 years in jail, it will not stop what is happening out there in society. Government will not be purposeful about fighting examination malpractice. She'll just be a scapegoat. She'll just be a scapegoat. For me, it's amount to a case of you throwing the baby and the bathwater away. She has learned her lesson. 3 years of her life is a lot. If she's 19, the next time she's ever going to try to enter the university in this country, she'll be 22 years old. At 22, a lot of our mates will be out of the universities, doing well in life, gainfully employed, or doing something for themselves. So basically, she's going to suffer to the extent that her life has been, there's a retrogression now. A 3 years retrogression.
The stigma on her.
Yes, a 3 years retrogression and that kind of a stigma on her.
A forever life stigma.
You call it stigma, sir. It's not a stigma. You know why it's not stigma? To start with, in civilized clan, if you, Mr. Evans Onokogie, was involved in stealing public fund in office and you were, sent out of office, you were impeached or your children will suffer the stigma of it. In Nigeria, your father is a celebrated criminal. He's an ex-convict. He will come out and there will be a welcome party for him, and there will be a hailing for him. Anywhere you go as his child, you are hailed as a son of that man. That you think this will now bring stigmatization to Mmesoma. If I were Mmesoma, I would laugh it off. It's not a stigma. The reason it's not a stigma because collectively we're all like her. She was just caught in the act. The nation itself does not value education. The nation itself is not projecting our young people to become people who play hard in the international stage, courtesy of the education that I give it to them. In India, there is a direct policy or philosophy underscoring the educational system. In China, there is a policy underscoring the educational system. And the question is, to what end are we schooling these children? India decided to export their talents to the world, their educated young people to the world. And go to the UK today, I've been there, sir. A reasonable size of the workforce in the United Kingdom are Indians and Pakistanis. Go to the UK, go to America, you will find a reasonable size of those in the IT department are Indians and Chinese. What is the Nigerian government selling to the world? The least we can even sell to the world, we are not even doing it, which is herbal medicine. There's grass everywhere. You think these grasses we have everywhere within our landscape, you think if they subject them to scientific search, you will find the cure of HIV there? God placed a lot in nature. The least we can do is take advantage of the grass we have if we cannot do the huge science that the world is doing. So Nigeria does not have an educational policy. If Nigeria will say she has an educational policy at all, it's to give you paper qualification to go and start looking for a job. We do not train people in our university system to become entrepreneurs or to become inventors. We train them to have paper qualifications so that they can go and start looking for jobs. We don't impregnate their mind with the idea of a CEO thing. We don't impregnate their mind with the idea of being creators and inventors. So, Mmesoma, sentence her to 100 years in jail is counterproductive to society today. Counterproductive.
All right, so as we conclude this segment now, what's your message to, as a stakeholder in the education sector in the country now, what is your message? Because different ways we talked about, even politicians that still our election results, being controversial and all that, even for the joint admission. The joint admission that is proving Mmesoma now. People are saying that joint admission, that's a job. You take the searchlight now and beam it back into yourself. So what's your message to the entire situation?
To JAMB, the searchlight that you're asking to be beamed on them, this present JAMB registrar has done incredibly well. No system is so watertight that you won't find loopholes in them. On this, we've not been able to establish in the course of this argument that JAMB's site was hacked. No. Is that she did a corridor design any person who's smart at that level could do. JAMB has done so well that JAMB is the only examination body today that I would reference to as a body that consciously fought examination to a standstill, to a point where we can breathe. The rest is so porous that a dead body can get results. A man who did not even enter the hall can get results. In examination malpractice, what you call absentee cases, you are not even there. You write, your name will come out, your certificate will come out. All that happens here. In our university system, you don't even need to attend. You'll give you certificate and they will impute it into the records of the university that you graduated from there. All of these practices are there, and we're looking at the case of Mmesoma. Well, for me, my message to parents, Nigeria and our leadership space is not designing itself to cater for these young people and to be mindful of their future. And you thinking that paper qualification is a way to get them ready for the future of this country, you are in error. It's been proven time and time again that the paper qualification is not even helping us again. Now, for me, I have 5 biological children of my own. I would never procure examination malpractice for them. If I hadn't a school of mine, I will never take my child to a school where malpractice is done. Because at basic school level, all the child needs to know is that in primary 6, they will write it on the board for us. And the enthusiasm to learn dies. And that child's gift begins to die with it. And what purpose God has designed for that child begins to die with it. Is the child also know that in JSS3, they wrote it for my mates who were ahead of me. Learning dies. And in SSC exam, the big one, they will write it for us. So the school system today is actually destroying the lives of these children. And the parents are paying the school to destroy them.
You guys that people look up to now, is you guys that the parents will look up to, whether you are going to write it for the students or not. It is you guys that people will look up to actually give the students, quality education.
Mr. Evans, don't forget, I'm a school administrator.
Yeah.
Parents know that I don't do malpractice. If I do, they can come and say it here. They know that since I started primary 6 exam, I'm interested in what the kids could do. I don't know why you've been paying school fees for them. I don't know why a teacher has been teaching them. I don't know why the school has been inspiring them if they cannot go and pass those exams themselves. JSS3 exam, we just I'll upload the video of it on my social media space, where the exam was going seamlessly. And since we started, our kids pass exams exceptionally because it's been ingrained in their consciousness, you will not be helped. So they learn. They sit down and learn. Is the child in the other school who is proclaiming, is it different from the one in my school? No. It's that the child in my school has learned through the process that you will not be helped. Now ask me, for the good that I'm doing, my school should be very populated right now, right? No. Parents are looking for paper qualification. In fact, parents are looking for such schools where their child will not be taught. I told people, and I bragged about it. Go to my school. Any of the classes in nursery 3, carry a newspaper you bought today, give it to them to read. And you'll be shocked what they can do. But the process is not a one-day thing. We started it from the preschool stage. That's what I'm saying. Government can get the best of our children by destroying malpractice. If you don't destroy malpractice, this generation you are saying, this Gen Z, they'll be the best of the worst that is to come in the future. So parents should know that you cannot help your child by destroying that child by procuring malpractice. Not all of us must go through this formal system of education. Are we even careful enough to know that some children were not even meant for this? Let me shock you, sir. The boy who designed the website of my school is not educated. He does not have a primary C certificate. The boy is an autistic child. The father knew early enough that his child cannot be like other kids. What's the point in going to go and cheat in exams for him? He can't be like other children. This child is gifted, but yet he's autistic. The father called me from Imo. He's a brother in the faith. He called me from Imo and said, I have a child like this. I know you're into the education scene. What do you advise? I said, what have you discovered about this child? Something he's prone to. He said he loves computer. Anything computer, he just wants to touch it. I said that child was meant to be a genius. Bring the child. And we enrolled him in CCT in Adesua in Benin here. 6 months after his program, he was teaching his own instructor. From there, they took him to one other one where you have better instructors. And he got there after like 2-3 months. He was also instructing them. He learns very quickly. When he designed my school portal, it was that he designed it from, I don't know, when you check my school portal, when you check my school portal, and you are now asking me that the person who did this thing and still maintains this portal does not have a primary C certificate. Yes, he doesn't have a primary C certificate. So don't be ashamed to say that God has given me a child that is gifted, even when the child is not showing strength in pen and paper work. I have 5 children. Are they all equally strong at that level? I don't judge any of them. Yeah. I find where their strength is and begin to, that's what parenting is.
All right, well, so a very big thank you to you, Mr. Peter Okungbowa, for finding time to come. He's one of the coordinators of Test House Tutorials Gorilla Brains in Benin City in Edo State. And, also one of the proprietors of Cavalry Crown Academy in Edo State, a stakeholder in the education sector in Nigeria. I mean, parents, we need to take a deeper dive now, be careful with our children, because these kids, what they are capable of doing,
you'll be amazed.
It's very, very intriguing. We have to be very, very careful with them. So
they are so smart, sir, that a JSS2 child in my school designed a game and put it on Play Store.
On Play Store?
Yes, he put on, is any money from it. So when you have kids that are this smart, they call them Indomie generation.
Yeah, but that's a good one.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. If we don't train them and put them on the right path, they will learn the evil one very quickly. And you'll be amazed that while you're at work, he has hacked your phone from his own house. He has hacked your bank account where he's seated. Because you refuse to show him the path that is right. Society, as dislocated as society is today, society will show you the right.
Perhaps we'll find more time to bring you on board because so many things. I'm also a parent too. I know what we see. Situations whereby your child under the excuse, with the excuse that they give them assignments. In the wee hours of the night, the child goes out. Most times they sneak out and they take your phone that they need to do the assignments. And you are slipping off, but the child is just busy doing something else. I know what I'm talking about. Of course, I know what I'm talking about. So please, for parents, let us be careful with these children so that we don't allow them to grow with the wrong tenets of life. And in turn, it's going to be a big problem to us if we don't take time. I want to say a very big thank you to you, Mr. Okungbowa, for finding time to come on the show today.
Thank you, Mr. Offense.
And the program is still on here this morning on ITV. So please, for all that attending Mmesoma'S out there, please, you are going to bring a disgrace to your family. You are going to bring disgrace to your nation. And you stand the risk of stigmatizing yourself for life. Imagine 50 years from now, reference will always be made to Mmesoma for the stigma that she has brought upon herself. Let's leave it there. All right, so we'll take a short pause now for other segments of this program. Please stay tuned. you.